Welcome to the Spice of Life podcast, where we take bold risks, build real wealth, and use money as a tool for freedom and legacy. I'm Luke Spicer, and each week we uncover the principles of ownership, independence, to business and life. Whether you're an investor, entrepreneur, or tradesperson, this show is about creating freedom today and legacy for tomorrow. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Spicer Life podcast. I'm your host, Luke Spicer. Today on the show, we've got Zachary Manywounds from Tsuut'ina Reserve down in west of Calgary. And Zach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's a
Oh,
pleasure. It's an honor, and I look forward to doing the show today.
it's been a long time since we've had a face-to-face chat, I feel like. We met each other through the fight world, obviously, doing Muay Thai when you were helping Kieran with the shows on down in Tsuut'ina and putting kind of your people's spot on the global stage through combat sports, which was pretty cool. I remember I fought on one of the shows there. It was we were treated really well. I really enjoyed that. And how about you? Are you doing any? I know you're training, but are you
Yeah.
any plans to fight anymore, or are you done?
I won't say this. Well, actually, I will. So, if a name came up, there's only one fight I would take, and that's Scott
Oh,
McKenzie.
huh?
Scott McKenzie. If that name ever came to my door, I would definitely, at my older age, be willing to put in a training camp for that guy. So,
Okay.
just a personal thing.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, you're probably not the only one that has a personal thing there. There's been a few people I've talked to over the years that have
Mine's more of a competitive thing. No, I
fair.
understand a lot of people's is more personal. Mine's just like, hey, it would be fun to go against somebody that good. I think
Right.
it'd be really great.
That's fair. That's cool. So, what are you doing these days for business? What's
Um, so I have my own consulting company. It's called Bridge the Gap. What I do is work between First Nations and industry or government bodies that want to work with First Nations people. I find that space, as it were, I really don't like that word, but I have to use it, space. But I find that's a really big missing area for general Canadians, as it were, and First Nations. Like there's no in between. It's always a stereotypic rent a feather or, oh, we're going to hire a guy and we have a guy. I'm like, no, like I really want to give the opportunity that's out there in Canada um, that is presented to First Nations. And I find a lot of Canadians, doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum you are on, they also don't have a way to connect with First Nations people properly, and vice versa. It's the same, it's the same problem on both sides, and that's where I came in as a business. I feel that being able to communicate in both worlds is essential. I know we all talk English; it's a universal language, but sometimes even that is confusing and it can be conflicting. So I try to take two sides and communicate for both of them and create opportunity. And that's what I've been doing for about a year now. It's a really fun business. It's really great when people begin to see success and long-term success, not an Indian country. It's usually short-term success. We got a project. Here's a bunch of money. We look cool for 10 minutes and then it's gone. For me, it's creating that long-term success financially, emotionally, which brings any community up. And that's been a big passion of mine for the last year. So that's what I do.
right? Cool. Now this has just been like a year, right? You just launched
Yeah.
this, so this wasn't something you were doing some of this in the background, I think, before. This has always been something that's been kind of passionate for you. Am I right? Like connecting people and helping your people expand and do that and bring in outside influence into the community. But now you're doing it officially as a business and consulting.
Yeah. I really believe that my ancestors' ideals when colonizers came, I guess, if that's what you want to use politically, is that they seen the advancements educationally wise. There was a superior understanding to whatever modernization through books and all that fun stuff. I firmly believe that's what my ancestors seen as the value of the people who came here. So with my company and things you spoke on previously, that's kind of the lens I look at it through is, hey, like our people are now in a modern time, right? We're not living off of what we kill and what we hunt. We live in the world with the rest of the people around us. And I believe that there is a lot of good people around us. It's just we're put into a silo where we don't understand, right? I know in the general Canadian world, they have their left and their right, liberals and conservatives, right? And both sides of the coin, when you are a First Nations person, if you really look at it, you can see both sides. Both sides are effectively trying to help. They are. Um, and at times, it could be both sides misunderstanding First Nations too. So
Hmm.
then you just have this never ending cycle of misunderstanding from everyone. So I really firmly believe that if my people and Canadians can really see each other for the good they all bring, that, we can really, really learn off each other for success instead of everyone being caught up in this crazy world we currently live in, which is, you know, I understand where you guys come from as Canadians. I see it a lot on social media, right? I'm like, oh man, this is really hard. So I really do my best to bridge the gap between people so there's not all this animosity and hate and dislike. And
That's that's a huge thing, and even as you touch on that, like I think of some of the, the news stories and different things that have come out from either side, but it's like almost unfortunate because when you talk about, Canadian politics, liberal, conservative, right? They're like and the bulk of Canadians are just kind of in the middle being like batted around. But then they use other things like immigration, like First Nations, and then they use them as like the ball that they're like smashing back and forth between each other to like drive points home, right? And it's like actually unfortunate because I do really feel that like as people, just in general, right? Doesn't matter where you come from, human nature, I think we're all actually meant and we enjoy getting along. It's just these far factions on all sorts of sides that are like, poking, shaking the jar, so to speak, to get us, fighting with each other, which is why I've always just enjoyed conversation. I've always been, what's the word? Like interested. This is like a stupid, like very intrigued with native culture, right? Like
yeah,
I think that at the root of it all, and they talk about it, being they, like, meaning, probably the far right, like savages and things like this, like back in the day. I'm like, yeah, but to say that like anywhere you go, I mean, at some point they were just people out in the land, like pilgrims were still just like living in the land, like to say that they're more advanced than the other ones. And when you think about a lot of like the way that I've always felt with Native Americans and stuff as they're portrayed, and just their like care for the land and the animals and just everything that, I mean, I say God created, right? And it's mind-blowing to me how we can look at how some people can look at a culture like that and go, "Pff, they don't know what they're doing." And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're actually at peace with nature, in harmony, right? With all of these things. And like, yeah, of course. I mean, at the end of the day, I think I'm a pretty peaceful person,
yeah,
but I'm not afraid to defend my family either, So it's like it goes both ways. And so, um, yeah, I really enjoyed that. One thing, and I mean, we chatted about this that I just was like blown away because I didn't know these things existed. I mean, of course, like I meditate, I've fasted, but I saw that you were doing that fast, right, for
yeah.
4 days. But it's different than just like saying, "Oh, I'm fasting and I'm just not eating. I'm going along." Like you went out, and for those who don't know, if you've watched Yellowstone, it's like in that there's that scene in there, that whole episode or whatever, where he goes off and does it. And then when I saw you were doing it to get at peace with stuff, I was like, dang, that's cool. And I fasted for 4 days before, but I was just living life, living inside. I wasn't outside. So can you share some of that with me? Like
Yeah,
what that experience was like? Because we haven't really talked about it, and I thought it
yeah,
was so cool.
yeah, of course. So in our culture, fasting ceremony goes 4 years. You go 4 days, 4 nights. You build what's like a camp. I find some people don't know how to do that, so they put themselves exposed into like open areas. And I mean that like you take these things called ties, right? You have your four colors, your black, your yellow, your red, your white, right? Those colors. And you take them out, and usually they're filled with tobacco, and they're bound by these little strings, these little different colors. You put them around you. Make sure you have a bed of sage. You can bring a sleeping bag. Usually have your pipe, an eagle whistle, and you stay out there for 4 days, 4 nights, and you pray and you pray. Basically, um, this is the first time I committed to it in my lifetime. So for everyone who does listen, I understand dehydration. Like like Luke, I was a professional athlete, so I know how to do a weight cut. Um, I definitely understand dehydration. I understand being malnourished, but I firmly believe that my ancestors and maybe even all of our human ancestors knew a thing or two that we don't know anymore. And like I'm not a big believer in like tree hugging and all that stuff, but let me tell you, the speaking out loud, holding a pipe, and talking to the universe, or as you said, God, Creator, your ancestors, you feel something different because there is no phone, there is no technology, there's nothing, right? There's you and what's out there. And where I live in Tsuut'ina is really close to where our ancestors are laid, so where our graveyard is. So I felt like really strong there. But one of the things that really did happen was on the third day, and that's where I'll always remember, where I was super dehydrated, like really dehydrated. And I started asking the planet, which I'd never used to call, our world, the planet. I just was so thirsty, so hungry. Um, and this is what really made me believe that this whole practice my ancestors did is real, because I started praying to the planet, please give me hydration. Like, I can't take this. And I don't know if you got this when you cut weight, like you get this like pulsing in your head,
Hmm.
and you're just like, I'm going to die. I felt that, man. And I swear my lips were bone dry. They were chappy. I was gross. I couldn't even fathom to use, to urinate. So I was praying, and man, my lips, after maybe 15, 20 minutes, my lips started to like, they weren't chappy. And all of a sudden I was like, I don't feel that pain in my head. And then when you leave this circle you're in, right? Because you're supposed to be in this like circle where all those ties are, you have to put a veil over your head. It's a spiritual thing. So I did that. And then I went to use the bathroom, and I peed crystal clear water. And man, it made me believe it was the most crazy thing. I also, the other part of that is you have to bring ties. Same thing, colors with tobacco. You tie them to trees. So when I went out for my people. I went out for family members, two of them that are very, very sick. I went out for my dad and my uncle because they needed that. And I went out for my children. But what I'll share with you most importantly about the spiritual side, whether you're a believer in God, doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are. I feel doing it that way, connecting to the earth as a human, will give you a form of really good clarity and peace and appreciation, just for everything, for your
Hmm.
wife, for your kids, for a bottle of water, for your warm home. It is the most humbling experience I have had in my lifetime, and I have to do it 3 more times. My father has done it a total of 8 times, along with sun dancing. So my dad is, if you guys have ever heard of that or seen it, my dad's done that 8 times. So if he ever takes off his shirt, you see these skin offerings that he gave. So he got pulled up a tree. I believe he drug 18 buffalo skulls, and then he was pulled up a tree uh, all the rest of the times. So that's the whole
Sorry,
reason
what?
we do it.
He
My
did
dad
what?
was pulled. My dad was pulled up the tree a total of 6 times, and then he did it those other two different ways. But yeah, like this whole practice is to, usually you do it for people in your family or yourself. If you're completely lost, or people need deep prayers, or you're going to become an adult, doesn't matter, man or a woman. And that's why you do this. It's a really big sacrifice, especially when you go with good intent. And yeah, I really believe it works, because ever
Hmm.
since I have done it, a lot of good things have come, and the two people in my family that were dealing with very, very good not is not the right word, very bad health. Like they're beginning to progress better. So I believe it, man.
Well, I mean, fasting's been around for thousands of years. They've talked about it in different religious um, practices, that everyone, I don't think there's a culture that doesn't believe in fasting, and just how they go about it are different, right? Like,
Hmm.
I know that when I've done a couple of them, I knew I did better when I was busy, right? And so like I did one where I was like, oh, I don't want to work. So I did it over the weekend, and I just wanted to be home in case I didn't feel good. And I found myself just like binge watching TV on the third day, and I was just like sluggish, and I felt like crap, and it was a real struggle to get to that like end of the 3 days. And then another time I did it, I went for 4 days where I was just like living, doing life, going out, like doing what I needed to do. But the first time was probably harder without realizing it because I was in my head a lot more. And so the other times when I was busy, I wasn't in my head. So that's where I think where like being, yeah, 4 days out in the wilderness with nothing, technology wise, you are in your head as well. There's nobody
Well,
around. You're
you have no
just
knife, you have
you,
no nothing, right? It's
yeah,
just you and
your thoughts.
light. And
Now,
maybe on a science level too, right? Without delving too deep in the cultural aspect, like, hey, you're connecting to the earth,
mhm.
right? For
Yeah,
that part is also so important. Is, hey, like when you're out there, it's you and the earth, and I think
yeah.
that gives us a form of something, right? They always say when you walk outside and you're bare feet in nature, you feel better, and I'm like, hey, like,
It's real. That's real.
yeah,
I've tried to get outside a lot more. Obviously coming from years of construction, I was outside all day long, 7 days a week kind of thing. Now being in the office and, or in my office on Zoom, I'm on the computer a lot. I find, oh man, I'm not moving my body the way I used to. I'm not, like exercising. My wife's been taking me for nature hikes. She goes almost every day. I try to go. I kind of forget about it in the afternoon. Sometimes I'm busy, but there's this area by our house. It's just like tons of hills. It's cross country ski area kind of thing, and just like up and down these hills. And I'm always like, God, this sucks because it's like I'm like out of shape. But I always feel better after that 45 minute, walk. And she's big and grounding. She's always in bare feet, right? My wife, and out in the yard, and I've always got work boots on because I need to keep my feet good. But it's like I've taken them off a few times and just like laid on the ground, and like how good you feel, right? Being
yeah,
connected to the earth, and I definitely think it's a huge overlooked practice, in
hmm,
society, being connected to uh, you know, Mother Earth, and just being, one
it's the
with,
good stuff, man. It's
yeah,
the
one
good
with
stuff.
nature. I mean, so there's this app I was talking about the other day. It's called How We Feel. And it's like you like click, like it just randomly checks in with you, and you start to click it. And so like obviously you just tell the app how you feel. You can share it with your friends that are connected on the app or not. Obviously you feel really good, you got high energy, you feel good, you got moderate energy, you feel crappy, whatever.
Yeah,
But then it asks you like what you're doing. And so the idea is it starts to like track obviously what you're doing. You're like, oh, every time I'm in my basement by myself in the dark, I feel like crap, right? And
yeah,
it's like, so then if you register it, then it's once you give it enough data, it starts to analyze and give you prompts like, hey, you don't, you're downstairs and you're not feeling good. Like maybe you should go for a walk or whatever. Like I've never put that in there because that's not a thing for me, but I can envision how it would be like all of a sudden you're feeling off. And I think as people, we're just so busy. Like society is busy, right?
yeah.
And when I started to cut things out of my life and not be just moving everywhere and start to focus on the things that I truly wanted, uh, man, I have a lot less stress, like just helping people, doing this thing, um, connected with people and actually having time and not looking at a watch like, oh, I got to get out of here. I got to get to the next appointment. I got to do this thing has sure been helping me. How, how did that, like, you did that for many reasons, and you were also looking for guidance. So when you were there and you were done that, you had more direction then after that was done for where you
Yeah,
were
I
going?
mean, um, like I pray to my ancestors a lot. I do. I'm a really big loyalist and believer in my nation. Um, so I rely on that. And when I left, I had a lot of clarity. Um, not just in a stereotypic like, oh, I had clarity because I did. I'm like, hey, like I have actual clarity in what's grounded me. One of the big things is my partner, Brittany. For a long time, as many of us men are aware, sometimes we get absorbed by modern world things, fast women, objects, things like that, right? And prior to meeting Brittany, I was in like a horrible place. And I mean that, right? Like I was in no good place. Um, and after meeting her, because she's a Tsuut'ina Blackfoot woman, right? Like she is really, really strong spiritually too. And that guided me down a warrior's path. And when I first started that was February 10th, 2020, real like the first real day. And I committed to wanting to embrace my ancestors more, especially the warrior aspect. And I got sober completely. Like I've been sober since. I've been living this really healthy life, but a lot of who I've become is because of her. And I felt before actually doing this path, I was always conflicted in certain choices, especially because I have
Hmm.
kids. And it made me realize, like, I have a really good woman who's supporting me through thick and thin, who's pushing me, who's not just letting me get away with things, who's showing me a form that a form of a woman I don't know, which is very old, like I mean traditional old school, like I'm not going to give you an easy life, but you go try your hardest. And that's really helped ground me. So when I came back, I seen the good in that. I really seen the holes in my nation, right? Unlike, unfortunately, majority of the rest of Canada, you don't get to see your government at a really tight, close lens. But here in Tsuut'ina, you do. And what it showed me, to be honest, was how our society has absorbed so much of the modern world, you know, and then at the same time we go out and preach that we're like our ancestors, right? So when I came back, I felt more able to speak freely to good people like you or other people throughout the world, and um, not rub my culture down your faces, And I see that a lot, and I don't think that's how my ancestors wanted things to be. So, like, I really appreciate when people like you do ask about this or you ask about our ways, but I'll never like stretch to the limit and be like, "Oh no, you're doing wrong," or you treat me bad. It really taught me the lesson in humility and respecting humans as a whole body, because it's really made me believe that all of our ancestors had an answer. And I don't know what that answer is, but I think it's connected all of us deeply. And like you said earlier, we just want to be good people. And that's kind of how I believe this ceremony showed me, is like people are good people. And
Hmm.
modern world, really, the modern times have really made it easy and accessible to get fast information, to easily find something new, something shiny, an object that you think you desire. And when you're completely alone, when you're in nature, when you're praying to whatever you believe in, it teaches you that every other human is just like you. And right now they might just be a little lost in their humanity, and hopefully more people can find that. It also taught me a really big lesson about judgment. um,
What was that?
we as humans live in a very judgmental society. And if somebody tries to succeed, especially when we know them, we try to rip them apart, try to bring them down. And what I learned through that was I prayed for people that have done not only me wrong, but I know they've done a lot of wrong to people in our society. And I've never had to do that before where I prayed for people that all of their karma, as it were, stay with them, not their kids, not their wife, not anyone, just with them. And if they need to seek judgment, then it'll be from the universe or God or the ancestors, right? Like that, those people are gonna, or that all those entities will eventually judge you as man or woman. And
Hmm.
so me, I learned that. I'm like, look, I might have a problem with someone, but I don't know their day to day. I don't know how bad their home life is. I don't know how bad their job is. I don't know if they're isolated and alone or if, they're doing nefarious things. I don't know. And just because somebody may come off rude or I may not like what they do, I'm in no place to judge them or give an opinion on them because of that. And I really did learn that being out there, because when you're out there, you feel alone, right? And the only thing is you, nature, and the rest of the universe, as it were, no one to talk to. And that made me realize, like, hey, look at where you are right now. And then there's all these other billions of people right now just living life, doing their thing, but none of them are judging me for being a person doing this. And why should I judge them for doing their daily life? So yeah, that's a big thing I learned. It was a humbling experience there.
Paper money's losing power, but real money, it's been trusted for 5,000 years. When banks print, inflation steals, and markets shake, gold and silver stay solid. Don't wait for headlines, own what's real. Visit learnwealthcycles.com and start building freedom with physical silver and gold today. Yeah, I mean, I've often struggled with this. Like I was raised Catholic, right? I'd say I'm a Christian now. Under the fundamentals of like I believe in God. I really hate like labeling it. Like I believe in God as a creator. Um, but I struggle with, anybody that looks at other cultures that were raised a certain way and like, well, no, your definition of God is wrong. It's like they still believe in something that's created and it's a different label, different language. I'm like, I struggle with not believing we all worship the same thing. We just call it something different, right? And it's been interesting to me this journey that I've been on the last few years with Christianity and like some you know, church leaders or whatever, and like where like they talk about acceptance, but then they're like, but only if you believe what we believe, to an extent. And I'm like, okay. Um, and so yeah, I mean, I believe I believe the story of Jesus. I believe when he was here, there's so much factual, like I mean, with books, like there's stuff that we believe and accept as fact that has less proven historical evidence than the story of Jesus has, right? Like it has way more points that prove that it's like accurate. Um,
Mhm.
and at the same time, I'm like, okay, what I struggle with these days is the leaders that I don't think we know everything as people, right? I think a lot of what is truth is hidden from us,
Yeah.
right? From leaders of governments, of the church, the
Of
Vatican.
even of my people, right? Like we can't not take that out. Is
No,
like I think across all spectrums is you have uh people that hide a lot of the truth.
yeah.
And I don't know why they do that.
Which is why I think getting in touch with nature, regardless of what your cultural beliefs are, is still important, and you can learn a lot being out in nature. Like it's so calming, man. Like when I was still doing construction, it's when I really started to kind of find that like balance and peace. And I would go for a walk sometimes if I was stressed. I'd just go out into the forest, and I would walk. There's like some good paths and stuff around in Red Deer, right around our community,
Yeah.
and I knew where they were. And depending on where I was working, if I was just having a real off day, I would just go and turn my phone to airplane mode with a timer, and I would just like walk in the forest for like 20 minutes one way, and
Yeah.
then the timer would go off, and I'd just turn around and I'd kind of walk back, it would always calm me so well. And I didn't realize at the time it was going on, but I was just moving my body. I had no um, distractions. I was just with my thoughts, and often it would just be I would just like release it, and yeah, I was having my own little meditation, right? I'd come home some days and I'd lay on the ground out in my yard. I'd just lay down on a blanket or sometimes just on the grass because I'd be in work clothes, so it wouldn't matter to me.
Yeah.
And you just feel that energetic pull to the earth where you're like, whoa, like, do I ever feel good? You know, and it amazes me how many people scoff at that idea and won't like accept it, right? Like, oh, yoga's bad, oh, yoga's good, oh, this is good, this is bad, like,
Right.
or they're just proven. And the one thing that I, somebody that's open, I think, would agree all the time is that as a society in general, we're constantly told by the left and right to hate the other side for something different, right? And it's just causing all of this divide. So, for the longest time, it was like pointing, to the residential schools, and we're arguing over what happened, what was right, what was wrong, has this happened? And people are arguing about everything. And I'm just standing back, like looking at a lot of this, going, do you not see what's happening? Black Lives Matter, this thing, that thing, the LGBTQ, like we're just like constantly fighting with each other, where instead of going, hey, we're different, but we're still people. And like, look at those guys. They're the ones shaking the jar, man. Let's get mad at those guys for a chance, right?
Yeah.
I hope, in our lifetime, we see a major revolution of people coming together, standing up against you know, the system, so to
The
speak.
ideologies of our ancestors. That's the
Hmm.
best way I like to look at it, right? Is in North America in particular, it's the ideologies of our ancestors that have put us all here. And that is a collective thing, regardless. Hate was fought with hate.
Yeah.
And one of the things I will share is when just you brought up the commission, right? When I worked with the Combative Commission and I helped Muay Thai World Cup. If you didn't know this, I was the original owner of Muay Thai World Cup. Me and Kieran were partners, and I then had to make a really tough decision to either be the commissioner, so be the governing body, or be a business owner with Kieran. And I felt during, especially when the world was closed, like I did a better service to all the fighters by being the governing, being the person championing the governing body, which was our nation. That's where I really had the opportunity when we talk about all this to see the best of humans, like the best. I mean, literally the best. Um, we had all the government restrictions, right? And I know there was a lot of people that were like, I support them. Hey, my ancestors beat smallpox. I always say that when COVID came around. I'm like, why would you need a vaccine? Our
Hmm.
ancestors beat smallpox from crazy Pendleton blankets, and we didn't get a vaccine. Like we're still here, right? Um, so that was always a fun argument to have, especially when you had the men in blue suits, as it were, try to come knocking, and it's like, hey, listen, no. um, People are allowed to feel that freedom, and they should. They shouldn't be forced like my ancestors were at one point, right? And it was the most beautiful thing to me to watch every form of person, no matter their background, no matter their cultural belief, be people and really unite. And I enjoyed it. Like that was the best of humanity I got to see, was a respect for everyone, if that makes sense, right? It was
Hmm.
everyone. It was just watching humans be humans. And I think to a normal person, like you see a bunch of fighters and like, oh, they're just barbaric. I'm like, no, no, like seriously, this is the most human experience you're gonna get, is because all of these people just are good people that want to, have a good time, respect one another, laugh, do their thing, dance in the middle of a ring, and call it a day. So those were some of the best times I had in recent years, watching humans be humans. And
Hmm.
let me tell you, every time we did a show, and you've done that many times yourself, like there was no animosity, man. Like it was the coolest thing to just watch people be people, people hug people. I get it, like fighters get heated, but like seriously, it was the best of humanity I ever seen. So
And truthfully, I think that the ones that get heated are still like those guys could probably go out and do a 4-day fast with you sometime or by themselves. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
those guys need to get right with God.
they're just
They
passionate, man. They're just warriors, you know what I mean? They're just
Mhm.
and I love that. I'm like, you are a warrior. Like I respect men and women. Like I say this often because in our people, the Tsuut'ina people, if you go to the Glenbow Museum, you get to read about them through Indian agent books, right? And the Indian agent that watched over my ancestors, they said, well, the Blackfoots, they were very welcoming. You know, they're hunter gatherers, they're really good people. And the Crees are very shy, but they're really good people. They're welcoming. And then they talk about the Stonies. Well, they're reserved. They're very stern. They're not too welcoming. And there's the Tsuut'ina. And if they're not trying to fight everyone else, well, they start fighting themselves. And literally, we would fight ourselves, not kill each other, but like physically fight one another. And to this day, like I really love the fact where whether you're a man or a woman, if you're gonna fight me, I'm like, I respect you. I respect you because it's just in my blood. Like I I love it. So I love those heated men and women in competition, especially fighting, that just have such a passion to win. I love it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's definitely one of those things like I mean I saw Lyle, right? My original, coach and sensei, like he just celebrated 50 years of his martial arts school and I was like, how freaking old is he? And I was like I came on there to argue. I was like, you're not 50 years, right? Like in my brain. And then I was like, wait a minute, I started there at 15. I'm 44. That's 29 years. I was like, and he'd already been well established at that point. I was like, okay, wow, that 30 almost 30 years in the, I mean, I've been away from it now, but like that's how it was. And so it's like, it shaped my entire life, right? I was this nerdy kid that got picked on a lot. Um, and I started fighting and I got picked on more because I was losing my first few fights, and people would tease me, then you start winning and then you start to get good and then you make a name for yourself. And then it's like, oh, and I remember Lyle telling me like you have a different reputation like you're a fighter now. It's different than martial arts because in the community, right, and being at the bar and going out like I can't be having getting mocked or beat up at a bar or something like that. Like you have to stand strong and represent, who you are. And it was also tough because I was just used to kind of like turn the other cheek, and but then going to the ring and be like, well, we're just competing. I'm not mad at you. We're just competing. I'm just really good, and I want to put you to sleep because that's how I win. And I'm gonna hold you after, like hold you, like hug you, and like lift you up, make
Yeah.
sure you're okay. I don't want to hurt you, but I want to win. And then it's like you go out into like the real world where people don't have that um, respect for what you did, or your culture and all that stuff. And like it was always really strange, but it taught me so much. Like, when we have like dark days or we have like hard things going on with work and all this stuff, I always just come back to it like could be worse. I could be getting elbowed and punched in the face, This is pretty
Yeah.
easy when you think about it. So it really taught me um strength and conviction and like how to be, strong. So with business, it was like this is pretty easy, like you just have to, go. So it'll always be part of me. I wish more people would do it. I think again, if like more of society trained in a martial art and understood the respect and actually knew what it was like to be punched and kicked and hit, they would be less vocal online. They would be have more time and compassion for their neighbor, in their communities that they
Your fellow
disagree with.
man. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, fellow man, because just because we disagree on something doesn't mean we can't have, a good conversation and hash it out or talk. And then at the same time, some things I think are pretty stupid these days. And like
I
maybe
agree.
we need warriors back running things so that we don't have to deal with, insanity, in everything. How how has like just the life that you grew up with and living on there, and then like is your focus to like expand, like because you're talking about bringing business in and into Tsuut'ina, but like what's your goal for your people, your nation? Like you're running, you have election. Are you running for any part coming up to be part of council or anything?
Yes, actually. But to answer your first question, I look very abroad. So with my business and what I do, it's not just focused solely on Tsuut'ina. It's majority of Alberta, Saskatchewan First
Okay.
Nations, just
Yep.
because I've seen the gray areas within those places. Um, the idea I have is within each treaty territory is to try to bridge the gap between those nation people and the people around them. Um, just for positive growth. And that doesn't necessarily mean business, but it also means like helping people get to know people better. I'll use a really good example, which is our former chief, which is Sanford Big Plume, and brilliant man. I respect him. I really love him. He's the only chief that ever watched me do my training in almost all of my fights. So I hold a really high level of respect to him traditionally. And he met a client of mine, and he was very opposed to meeting them at first just because they have an oil industry background. Can't name the client. Um, and you know, I knew what this client's intentions were, which was a lot of job career growth. It wasn't financial growth, it wasn't that, it was career growth, and that's where they focused. And it took him about 5 meetings to really understand that this was their mandate. It wasn't to get a bunch of money from them, it wasn't to get a bunch of money from his organization or take any money or land. It was, we need 5 strong First Nations individuals. And let me tell you, and anyone who's listening, like, if you had a job opportunity just because you're of a race, as it were, like I think that's crazy, right? Like you have a group of people that wants to only hire First Nations people, right? And these are career jobs. They're not entry level. They're not, you know, they're not little things. They're big jobs, and they lead to huge careers. Um, and he finally understood that, but it took me a few tries, right? Like it doesn't matter that we're from the same nation. It doesn't matter that we're both First Nations people. It still took me a few tries for him to really understand that, hey, like this person, this good person is trying to make 5 First Nations people have long-term careers, not jobs. And to me, that is a beautiful, beautiful thing, because now those 5 people, as they move on into it, well, like any career professional, that's what they'll be doing, right? They'll have a long-term career, they'll have their pension built in, they'll have all that fun stuff if they so choose that path, right? And it was hard. It's hard to do that, but that's the kind of success I'm trying to bring to First Nations and the world. Is it's, you know, we're always focused on financial success
Yeah.
or financial equity, and to me a big win is emotional equity. And those 5 people, that's emotional equity, right? That's a big thing. You have 5 people that might have families or single family home, whatever, but they're going to have something for them now, right? Which you don't see often for anyone. We're talking anyone. And I think that's the beauty of it all to me with doing that. Going to the next part, yes, I'm participating in our election process this year. I think I have a lot of good backing this time, as I did something very different. I actually earned it. And I mean, I literally earned it. I was fired from my former job politically before I could even retire from it. So it was a really interesting exit, which happened last year. I know we talked about it earlier that, hey, you did this. Um, but I was fired politically because I was standing up to our governing body. Not, I will not mention that person's name, as any of your listeners will know that they made the news. I shouldn't laugh at it, but they did, and it's horrible. Um, but that's the person I was able to fight against for my people and really bring some good to our community, like how I believe majority of Canada works. I did a lot of town halls, as you guys call them. I call them community meetings. I was
Hmm.
doing those, and I'm still doing them every month. to just bring community members in, to keep them informed off of factual information of their own governance, right? Their own writings from our own government. Um, so it's been a really fun process. And within a month, we'll see if I'm successful or not. And regardless, I'm just going to keep moving forward in a positive light. We do need a lot of good, positive change here in my nation. Like majority of you, we've had a very bad regime government. You guys did with the liberals. I know that through the Justin Trudeau regime, and so did we. So for us as a nation, I believe my people are going to select those who have earned it, and to
Mhm.
shift the voting narrative from what we're used to stereotypically in our First Nations communities is you have a large family, you're going to get in, right? You're going to get voted into government. You buy your votes, you're going to get voted in. One of the things I'll give Tsuut'ina is we have our own electoral system, like we have our own governing system, so we follow our own governance laws. So you can't really use those old methods anymore. So I'm really looking forward to this election, regardless if I'm successful or not, because I believe all the people that will be elected have earned the right to be there.
But yeah, which is like important. I mean, I think that all the time we have an election today, actually, in Red Deer for our municipality, right? Mayor, council, school boards, trustees, all that kind of jazz. And it's like, it's, it's hard, man. Like so many people are so polarized, right? And fighting with each other, and people are vocal online. And there's one candidate where all of her signs are being vandalized by the left, because she's very right leaning. And spray painting it, writing really derogatory things on her signs, and I'm just like, oh man, like just that you can just see the pain and hurt that people are feeling from just years of psychological abuse that we've all went through, and we continue to go through, at the hands of government, right? And I think that you know it's tough. I mean, it's why I work so hard actually doing what I
Yeah.
do. Um, with investing, with helping people understand their investing so that they can take back control of their finances, take back control of their energy that's been trapped in the banking system. And it all comes down to freedom for me, right? It's like I
Mm.
want more freedom, freedom of time, freedom of movement, all of these things. And that comes at a price because currently in the world, we still use money, well, currency, but
Yeah.
to pay for things. So, we've labeled our time, and I think that that's where, as a warrior, it bothers me because, on one hand, it's like, for generations, right, the strongest warriors made the rules,
Mhm.
for the most part. And I believe, and they're not all good by any means, but to sit back and be like, I'm having to I'm choosing to listen to the current rules and regulations where, like, ultimately I just want to some days go around slapping people because I can, right?
Well,
And
you know what's so interesting about what you're saying is that so taking my ancestors, right? This is one of the more unique things that I wish Canadian ancestors learned from our people is the balance. So in all First Nations cultures, warriors and leaders were always separate, right? But once the leaders got out of hand, warriors would, and society would let them rebalance the system like a spider, right?
Mhm.
um, and they would come in and they would lead the people and they would lead them fair and neutral, right? Until you found the right people to, guide your people forward. Then sometimes you'd end up with like a war chief, or you'd have a chief that had a war chief on the side, right? And traditionally, that's how you balanced messes, like as you see the Canadian government and things you're speaking on. I'm like, yeah, if that was a hierarchy process that was followed from my ancestors, something I really wish Canadian government learned. I'm like, everything would be balanced. Wouldn't matter
Mhm.
what side you're on. You'll have a set of warriors that are going to say, hey, listen, no, no more of this. This is nonsense. You're hurting the people. Let's let's get back on track to the good stuff, right? And that's a few years ago, that's what started me on the process, right? As I mentioned earlier with my partner and really following that path as a warrior. That's what I've championed the last couple of years is
Mhm.
like, hey, this is bad. And like you, I can slap someone in the face if they try to come,
Yeah.
but no one will. So the truth is like I really wish that society had that at large, like everywhere, municipal, provincial, federal. I'm like, yeah, that would balance out. That would humble society quickly because,
Mhm.
as you know, you are a warrior too. I'm like, we're very neutral people, and we just want the best for people. We don't want
Yeah.
hand shit. So yeah, that's something I really wish was integrated.
How does Zach define freedom? Yeah.
I look at it through two lenses. Um, I can look at it through the Canadian lens, which is a general, Canadian lens. I don't mean to offend anyone. Um, I think that freedom is the ability to be a human and to make those choices independently. I do not appreciate modern time how whatever current culture, in the 90s, it was like you have a Walkman, then you have a Discman, and a Game Boy, and then it kept evolving, right? The current cool thing, and that's what I feel like everything is nowadays is restriction for freedom. A person can't think independently anymore. A person can't have views that are culturally not accepted by society. People can't speak freely anymore, and that's a truth. You can't even have a common debate with anyone.
Mhm.
Freedom should give you the ability to go anywhere, be anywhere, and feel welcomed, especially here in Canada, as that's what the world believes, right? Like we as Canadians have a smokescreen of success, right? We're always so nice, we're always so kind, but I'm like, that's not the truth. People hating people for no reason. You have a whole bunch of people wanting to leave Alberta and become a part of a different country for no reason, right? And that's because people don't feel how they used to feel. It doesn't matter about people's racial views or anything. There was a very strong set of freedom, especially through the 90s and 2000s that I remember for everyone, right? It felt really good. And we don't have that anymore here. General Canadians don't. And talking as a human, like just all around human, um, freedom should be who you choose to be. Freedom should be what you believe in, and being able to respect your fellow man is a big part of that, right? I don't care what your religious views are. You shouldn't care what mine are, but I respect you. You, I don't like a certain set of people. You don't like a certain set of people, but I like you and you like me, and that shouldn't affect us. Freedom is working with your worst enemy and getting the job effectively done. And at the end of the day, going back to being like, I don't fucking like you. But when we work, I goddamn like you, right? That's a part of my freedom to know that I can like you for what you do in performance. I
Mhm.
truly wish that our children, because you have children too, can begin to see a set of freedom through the examples we give them that we live by each day, starting in our home and teaching our kids about those human rights that should be available to us, which is you are an individual, you are independent to think how you want to think, speak how you want to speak, and believe in what you want to believe in. That there is no definitive way to do things, that you should be able to create and make it your own. And we don't currently live in that. I wish we all did though, because our society would be much more beautiful at large, and people would feel more free, right? I feel that what society appropriates as freedom is like watching kids who are spoiled. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
our large society appropriates some pretty crazy things. And you may have been just a bit older than me in the 90s, but I remember there'd be kids that would, you play a game with them and they freak out and turn off the system. I'm like, those are the people nowadays that are getting everything that they want. And that's not freedom. That's selective, like picking. That's BS,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's
what,
what freedom means to me.
yeah. To me, I mean, that's again what happens when society is led by people that don't have a warrior mindset. They've calmed them down. They've kept them quiet, and the rest of these people get to just act like spoiled brats, right? And nobody
Yeah.
can say anything. And that didn't happen um, the same way when I was a kid. I mean, I'm sure it happened from time to time, but it wasn't as prevalent, right? Because
Mhm.
it was like, what are you doing? Like, don't do that, right? And it would be over. It would be squashed. Um, yeah. When it comes to your time, money, business, family, how do you prioritize each one of those areas for your life?
I really put my family first. I always have. I don't share this often with people, but I became a parent at 19. I was actually, and I take accountability for this. I actually got myself kicked out of my dad's house when I was like 16. So I'm not going to blame my dad for that. But when my son came into my life at an early age, I really, really learned the importance of what is number one, and that was him. And it's always been him. Obviously, he's a man now. He's 18. Uh, so I always try to put my family first. And I don't care how tired I am. I don't care what I've done. Like, especially when Marcus was little and I was like really training, he used to come with me to the
Mhm.
gym 4 or 5 hours a day. And, we get up early. So family is always the top of my priority list. And then my nation is right up there too. So if my people need me or the nation needs me, I am right there. Like I will die for that set of people. And then when it comes to business work, I like to put that second. I very much believe that any sort of money and value I create, I should save. Through you, especially the last 4 years, I've been really trying to learn more about physical assets. And I'm like, cool, to have an abundance of money to throw at silver and gold right now would really pay off in the long term. And I understand that. So I prioritize my family, my nation first, and then business and obviously money that comes with it. I often feel the lesson I learned from Helen McGinnis. You would not know her. She was a very respected elder.
Okay.
She's from like the old people, like the people you guys would see with on movies. She's from that. But she said throughout her lifetime to everyone, like, money doesn't mean anything and it's just going to come and go. One day you'll have everything, then you'll have nothing. Then a few days later, you'll have everything again. And that's kind of how I see money sometimes. I know that's not a good thing because I totally can see your your view and everyone else's view, but I'm like, look, I do believe in that. Money will always come and go, even if you save it, right? It'll always come, it'll always go. It's not going to go to
Oh,
the grave with me. It
no.
might get passed down to my kids, but
Nah, I mean, to me, money's a tool, nothing more, nothing
yeah,
less, right? It's not the most important thing. And at the same time, it's kind of like oxygen, right? It's like, you need more all the time. You're only as good as your last breath, right? If you hold your breath, you're going to be in trouble. If you hold your money, you're going to be in trouble. Money's an exchange of energy, right? So, in a society, in today's society, right, we've pegged certain careers and jobs and tasks as more valuable per hour than others, right? And to me, I think it all comes back to value. One of my favorite books ever is The Go-Giver by Bob Berg, right? And John David Mann. And it talks about that. It's like the Pindar, the super successful, business mogul, is giving his 5 laws of stratospheric success to, Joe in this book. I think it's Joe in that book. And Joe's a go-getter. He's trying to do all these things,
yeah,
but Pindar is trying to teach him, that there's a lot more to life than just, you know, getting, go, 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 go. It's about building relationships, those kind of things. And there's another talk where it talks about like everything's free, food is free, houses are free. It just takes time, right? And that's it comes back again now, right? We're like, Mother Nature, right? To come back to how we started, right? I can take a seed, put it in the ground, water it, nurture it, and it now produces fruit for me in a major way. That didn't cost me anything but a little bit of time and relying on God-given sun, and
yeah.
now we've got fruit. Um, it's kind of like that with everything. So I've always focused on myself, like relationships and building and cultivating those things. and then figuring out how I can give the most value to the most people because yes, it will reward me, but not in just monetary, right?
Yeah,
Aspects. When I decided to launch this podcast and I reached out to, 40, 50 people, almost all of them said yes right away, and it was like, and they're from all walks of life. And it really made me think like I didn't expect to have so many interviews right away. I kind of, I'm gonna have to work at it. It's like I didn't have to work at anything. People were just like glad to come on, right? And I was like, right, yeah, this is there. So, the reason I was talking about Bob is like it's my favorite book, and I want to ask you, what like do you like to read?
I do. Yes, yes, I do.
So what are two of your favorite books, like all-time
My
favorite books?
Kobe the Mamba mentality is probably at the top of that list.
Okay.
Um, I love Kobe Bryant's mind. I know a lot of people will always think of the fierce basketball player, but I love who he was as a dad. And I love
Hmm.
how, like what you just said, how do you prioritize all that?
Yeah.
How he prioritized his life to me was really special because I'm like, who's willing to do that kind of not only training, but parenting? You know, you have a guy who's training at 3, 4 in the morning and still getting back home to get his little girls to school and to still be able to pick them up every day too and do all of what he had to do. I'm like, that's a lot of what I use. Um, and then I'm just a big old dork, to be honest. I don't read heavy literature as yourself. A lot of what I do read when it comes to my intellect comes from reading governance, which is not fun for anyone. So reading laws and all that fun structure from my former career. That's where a lot of my high intellectual prowess would come from. But because I'm a big old nerd and I'm honest, I don't like lying. It's Frank Miller's Batman Returns. So yeah, I know that's probably not what you
Okay.
want to hear right now, but hey
No, no,
man,
no, no.
I am a
Okay.
huge nerd and I love that story. I love
Right.
it. I do.
Hey, I mean everybody, and it's interesting even in some of these like fictitious stories, how so many of them have awesome parables and like, lessons to be taught within the stories that you can read, right? So it's still good. It's interesting about Kobe, like I never liked him um uh, until just just near the end of I want to say like just before like the end of his life, right? Like
Yeah.
when he got to a point where he was like um uh just before he died, I stumbled on some of his like talks on like YouTube and things, and I was like, dang, I like this guy. And then he died, and then I was like, oh no, like the world lost this like magnificent individual who really spoke about, success and the work and the grind and the effort, and then to like listen and learn about like how he worked and the effort that he put into his craft. I was like, man, how could I have ever not liked this guy? Then I was like almost mad that I didn't pay attention to him, years before, right? I've never read that book. I've been asking everybody that because I really like to read and I've been trying to read, a book or two a month. It's been a bigger part of my journey the last like year kind of thing, right? Where I'm
Yeah.
really trying to read. Some of them I'm rereading books that were, I read when I was younger.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I really like that one.
Well, I'll have to shoot you a note on Instagram. My son Marcus, like you, he reads amazing books. My son is like beyond my intellect, beyond everything I do. He's just better than me at everything, I think. But like he is a really good religious reader of like good scripture. I see all of your books in the background. I'm like, that reminds me of my boy, right? So I really like that you read books, and I'll send you some of his recommendations because I bet you
Yeah.
you'll really like them. Not
Yeah, I was like,
not
yeah, I was
mine.
like, what does he read? What kind of books does he like to read?
Like all the stuff you have in the background is like what he has in his room.
Yeah.
Yeah, he blows me away. He got really heavy a few years ago into astrophysics, right?
Okay.
And he was coming home with these like big ass books, and I have a big head, so if anyone sees my head, it's huge. Like those are the kind of books like what you have in the back. and he was just crushing them. And then he'd come and be like, "Dad, do you know about this and this with the universe?" And I was like, "Whoa, slow down! I don't know what you're on about, man." And
Uh,
yeah, he is a brilliant young mind. Um, it blows me away that my son has, I think he's drank alcohol twice in his lifetime. He's been to Japan. He's met world leaders. He spoke to a world leader. We just won't mention which world leader because nobody really likes that man. But yes, my son wrote that man a statement when he was about 6. He got to say it in front of him. My son is probably one of my biggest heroes and inspirations. So when we talk about like all the good books, like good things that you speak on, a lot of that is my son. And yeah, like I could go on for days about Marcus. He's the most impressive human ever. Just yeah. Yeah, so I'll have to shoot you some notes about his books because
yeah,
he has good books. Like
I love that. I love that. So Zach, where can people find you if somebody's listened and they're wanting to learn more about what you do for Bridge the Gap, like where how can they get a hold of you?
so because I'm gonna be honest, I'm like an old school entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
I do a lot of door knocking. So where people can mostly find me, I have public profiles on social media, on LinkedIn, right? There's no private weird try to be. So I'm like, you want to
Mhm.
message me, message me. I'm fairly open. I give most people my number. I give people my email. I that's literally what my company does, right? I bridge the gap between people. I might
Yeah.
not even know you, and I'm just like, let's be friends.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to reach out there, you have that. Like I said, on all of those platforms digitally, easy to find. I'm not a big user, and I think you know that. Like I don't
Mhm.
pump out lots of content. I think I write inspirational quotes that I read sometimes, and like, oh yeah, hey, I think everyone needs to hear this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I write. So that was the other thing I was going to share with you before we close off here. Is I've been writing 2 books over the course of the last 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually have a story called Neapo, which is about my oldest daughter, Avery. Um, and I have another short story about my youngest daughter, Amira. So
Okay.
yeah, man, it's
Yeah.
it's a fun thing to tell stories, and I'm really
Yeah.
grateful my partner has an amazing background in writing,
Yeah.
so she can review everything I do. So yeah, I just have to throw that out there to you, man.
Oh,
Because right,
that's
right,
cool.
right. I'm writing a book.
Yeah.
I forgot to share that
Oh
with you.
yeah. A book or two books, like they're individual
Dude,
books.
short story, but
Yeah.
the Neapo story, man, it's so. I took elements from First Nations people, like a
Hmm.
lot. So the Hopis and the Pima Indians of in the United States. When you talk about God earlier, you were speaking about, hey, we all believe in God. I'm like, they believe, and most First Nations people in North America believe in the Star People, right? But the most solid factual evidence you'll have is with the Hopis. And when you go to their nation, there's something called the Keyway. It actually was on the Ancient Aliens. that
Okay.
it was on there. So it's this huge thing. It's like 120 feet high, about 100 feet wide. And in the center is this crazy little circle thing. They don't know what it is. It's been there forever, right? Their ancestors draw about it that this big, huge wall opens and these giant people come into it, right? The Star People. And that's where we come from. So they say, right? This is where you came from, was them. They're our creator. I'm
The
like, okay.
Anunnaki.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
I personally took a lot of those elements and I made that story based around my daughter's heart. I was like, cool.
Cool.
Yeah,
Hey,
right.
that's awesome. I mean, that'll be. I'll look forward to reading that when it comes out. I know a few people that have written some books. So it's kind of cool when you know that a friend has written something and it's like, hey, let's check that out. So,
I think you'll
Zach,
enjoy it.
hey,
I
yeah,
think you'll enjoy it. It also does the one thing I think I'm trying to do, which is it takes away racial stereotypes for everyone. I despise that. I really
hmm,
despise when people call you guys, white people or black people or Asian people or Native people. I'm like, listen, we're all just supposed to be people. And we're all
hmm,
just supposed to try to make it work while we're here, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah. That's
if you're a good
unfortunate
man,
because yeah, there is so much
yeah,
divide and a lot of that stems from fear, right? And the unknown and what's going to happen. You introduce different cultures to different regions and areas and they don't get along and yeah, That's a whole nother episode right there. You could
We
have
can
a
get into
good
that another time.
you could have a good talk about that. But man, I really appreciate you coming on and thank you. And if I hear of anybody that's looking to bridge the gap, then I'm gonna introduce them to you. I know that you're a good man that just wants to see the best for people. So I look forward to seeing what comes next for Zachary Manywounds.
Thank you for having me on your show. Thank you for the lovely morning chat. Anyone who's listening, Luke has taken the full martial arts journey. He really has. He's given back to us all. And I hope you all know that I'm really grateful for you. And
Thank you,
people
sir.
should be grateful for what you're doing. I think what you're trying to do by helping everyone around from all facets of life is a really beautiful thing to me. To give people security, to give them freedom, how you have been, I think is a service that a lot of people need in their lives. And yeah, like to me, I respect you highly as a man, as a father, um, everything that you are in your life. But most importantly, I respect you as a warrior and a martial artist because you literally are giving back to everyone. You're
Thank
taking the
you.
time to do these podcasts, you're taking the time out of your day to help everyone in your life. So I'm really proud of you. It is an honor to be on your show. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Have an amazing rest of your day.
You as well. Talk soon, my man.
Cheers.
Bye.
When a system shakes, paper wealth disappears overnight. But real wealth, it doesn't flinch. Gold and silver have outlasted every currency ever printed. The question isn't if this next storm comes, it's what will you do when it does. Visit learnwealthcycles.com. You too can own what's real.